Coup, the billionaire CEO, Olivia Sterling, a symbol of corporate strength, collapsed from her expensive wheelchair onto the sterile floor. Wealthy onlookers and staff recoiled, refusing to approach the broken woman. Daniel Cole, the impoverished night janitor, instantly dropped his mop and rushed to her side. Olivia whispered, defeated, "I will never walk again." Daniel looked straight into her broken eyes and made his impossible promise, "I will help you walk." She let out a single, wretched, cold laugh at his audacity, the impossible hope crushing her, then burst into tears. Daniel Cole's life was a masterclass in quiet, grinding labor. 3 years had passed since a sudden illness had claimed his beloved wife. Now his entire existence revolved around his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. To keep their modest apartment and put food on the table, Daniel worked 3 separate, exhausting jobs. The most stable, but most draining, was the night shift as a janitor at Sterling Heights, a luxury facility catering exclusively to the world's elite. Emma was often Daniel's silent companion. She would curl up in a corner of the dimly lit security office, quietly doing her homework under the glow of a small, battery-powered lamp, while waiting for her father's shift to end at dawn. Daniel was an exceptional parent. He never allowed his profound exhaustion to dull his decency. His core teaching to Emma was simple and profound. "Everyone hurts in some way, Emma, so you must always choose kindness." On the opposite pole of human existence sat Olivia Sterling. As the heiress and brilliant CEO of Sterling Industries, she was a titan, a fiercely independent financial genius who at 29 had catapulted her family's global conglomerate to unprecedented success. But fate is cruel. A catastrophic highway collision had changed everything overnight. The accident left her with severe spinal cord damage, resulting in near-total paralysis below the waist. Her gilded world instantly turned cold. The powerful Sterling family, seeing her vulnerability, sensed an opportunity for a power grab. Her older cousin Marcus, ambitious, cruel, and hungry, began lobbying the board. He pushed hard to have Olivia declared medically unfit to lead. The family urged Olivia to retire gracefully, suggesting her disability was a public relations liability and an embarrassment to the family name. Trapped in a body that would no longer obey her formidable will, Olivia sank into a deep, icy well of despair. She dismissed doctor after doctor, specialist after specialist. She saw them only as professionals who viewed her as a failed recovery project, nothing more than a diagnosis. Her isolation became absolute. The only time she felt she could truly scream out her pain was in the dark, silent solitude of the physical therapy room, long after the day staff had gone home. One night, as Daniel was quietly mopping the nearby hallway, he heard the chilling sound of raw, unadulterated anger. Olivia was sobbing, striking her own motionless legs with her fists, whispering accusations. "Why won't you listen to me? Why won't you move?" Daniel froze. Protocol dictated he should retreat, ignore the patient's emotional breakdown. Instead, he simply placed a fresh, unopened bottle of chilled water and a new packet of tissues discreetly outside her closed door. He left no note. He did not wait for her response. He simply walked away. The next morning, Olivia found the silent offering. It was the first time since her accident that she felt truly acknowledged, not pitied for her situation, but simply seen as a person in desperate need of comfort. Later that day, she accidentally saw the source of the kindness. Olivia was being wheeled past a service entrance when she caught sight of Daniel. He was patiently kneeling, demonstrating how to tie Emma's tiny shoelace. His movements were gentle, meticulous. He then pointed to words in Emma's worn, much-loved schoolbook, his face alight with overwhelming tenderness. Olivia's usually rigid defenses softened immediately. She couldn't remember the last time someone had shown such simple, undemanding kindness, a kindness that asked for absolutely nothing in return. One late evening, the wheel of Olivia's custom, expensive wheelchair became wedged in a slight gap near an elevator threshold. She struggled furiously, her frustration quickly mounting to blinding panic. Daniel, hearing the loud grinding noise, sprinted over. He assisted her, making sure he touched only the chair mechanism, never her body, maintaining a respectful and professional distance. He moved with a practical, efficient competence that was utterly devoid of pity. Olivia, still breathing hard from the exertion, looked up at him. "You aren't afraid of me?" she asked softly, the question heavy with latent bitterness. Daniel paused, his hand still resting on the wheel. His reply was direct, honest, and completely without sentimentality. "You just sit in a wheelchair, Ms. Sterling. That doesn't make you weak. The artifact of a real human connection." Back in her sterile, quiet apartment, Olivia located the packet of tissues Daniel had left outside the room. She carefully folded the unused packet, tucking it deep into the pocket of her expensive cashmere robe, a tangible physical reminder that dignity and selfless kindness still existed, even in her isolated, gilded world. Following that pivotal encounter, Olivia began to deliberately manufacture reasons to be in the main hallway during Daniel's graveyard shift. She would claim she needed to be moved or that she was waiting for a late therapist, but the deeper truth was undeniable. She was actively seeking him out. Daniel, keenly observant and quiet, knew precisely what she was doing, and he never ever called her on it. One evening, long after the day staff had departed, Olivia expressed a desperate, burning desire to attempt standing. It was a practice her physician had explicitly forbidden her from doing due to the severe high risk of muscle collapse and bone fracture. Her regular physical therapist, concerned about liability and medical ethics, had firmly refused her request. Daniel overheard the heated, demoralizing exchange between Olivia and the departing nurse. He approached her, his voice low, measured and serious. "Do you want to try, Ms. Sterling? Really try?" Olivia's eyes, usually sharp, cold, and calculating, were wide, vulnerable, and pleading. She gave him a firm, resolute nod. Without uttering another word, Daniel positioned his solid, athletic body directly behind her. He placed his large, steady hands low on her hips and gently across her back. He ensured his grip was absolutely solid, guaranteeing he could prevent a total, uncontrolled collapse. As he slowly and gently guided her to transfer her weight to the parallel bars, Olivia began to shake violently. Daniel's voice, calm and deep, became her anchor in the storm of her anxiety. "Breathe deep, Olivia. Focus on my voice. I'm right here. I've got you." On that agonizing first attempt, she managed to hold herself upright for a terrifying, wobbly 2 seconds. The instant she settled back into her chair, she burst into deep, raw, ugly tears, the uncontrolled sound of a heartbroken child who had failed at the simplest of human tasks. "I hate being viewed as useless," she choked out, wiping her face furiously with the back of her hand. Daniel's answer was quiet, but it resonated with profound, unwavering conviction. "I have never, ever seen anyone as strong as you are, Olivia." From that night forward, their secret training regime began in earnest. Daniel utilized the facility's extensive, state-of-the-art equipment to guide her through rigorous core strength exercises. He often utilized his own strong body as a stabilizer and support, always initiating the sessions only after his shift had officially ended. No one on the day staff knew of their incredible alliance. Only Emma. The little girl would sit patiently on a mat nearby, completely absorbed in her books, acting as the innocent, unblinking sentinel of their burgeoning trust. Emma once interrupted a session, her small face serious and concerned. "Miss Olivia, does it hurt? Is it painful?" Olivia, exhausted and soaked in sweat, looked at the little girl. A genuine, bright laugh escaped her. It was the first truly happy, natural laugh Daniel had ever heard from her. "It hurts, Emma," she admitted openly, "but it doesn't hurt nearly as much as feeling completely alone." The emotional connection deepened and solidified one violent, stormy night. A sudden, massive power surge caused the lights in the hall to flicker aggressively and fail entirely. The pitch-black darkness, combined with the aggressive, deafening sound of the rain lashing the windows, instantly triggered a fierce, paralyzing panic attack in Olivia. The trauma revived the terrifying memory of her car crash. Daniel, immediately recognizing the paralyzing terror, didn't hesitate for a second. He removed his thick, worn work jacket, draped it immediately over her trembling shoulders, and placed his large, warm hand firmly on the small of her back. "I am right here," he promised, his voice a steady, calm drone against the noise of the storm. No one is going to hurt you ever again. Huddled within the protective comfort of his embrace, in the scent of his honest work jacket, Olivia felt herself shrink into his stability, and for the first time, she did not feel like a disabled person or a patient. She felt cherished. Inevitably, the rumors began to spread. The facility managers and her cousin Marcus's inner circle learned that the poor, unqualified janitor was attempting to get close to the quadriplegic billionaire. The facility manager, acting explicitly on orders from the ruthless Marcus, cornered Daniel one afternoon. He began to loudly berate him, his voice thick with veiled corporate threats. All of it happened directly and deliberately in front of Olivia. Something deep snapped inside Olivia. She rolled her chair forward with violent speed, her CEO's voice returning, sharp, authoritative, and terrifyingly cold. "Do not ever insult him again. Janitor," she yelled, her eyes flashing with a protective fire Daniel had never seen. It was the first time she had publicly and completely taken Daniel's side against her own world of wealth and power, the artifact of progress. The next night, after Olivia had successfully stood for a full 3 seconds without collapsing, Daniel quietly took his penknife. He carved the initials OS, small and deep, into the vertical wooden bar of the parallel racks, a tiny secret marker of the exact height she reached purely on her own strength. The Sterling family's espionage was relentless. Having failed to intimidate her, they quickly discovered Olivia's unsanctioned, secret training regimen with the janitor. They immediately convened an emergency board meeting. Their accusations against Daniel were chillingly severe, designed to destroy his reputation. Marcus, her opportunistic cousin, led the charge. His tie impeccably knotted, his face a chilling mask of corporate concern and feigned virtue. "Daniel Cole is untrained, unqualified, and utterly reckless," Marcus stated to the board, his voice ringing with false alarm. "He is intentionally causing further physical damage to Olivia by encouraging dangerous, non-sanctioned activity. His actions are a liability." He demanded Daniel's immediate and very public dismissal, hoping to sever the emotional tie. Olivia defended Daniel fiercely, wheeling herself to the imposing mahogany table. "He is not causing damage. He is saving me," she declared, her voice cracking with raw, unfiltered conviction. "If it weren't for him, if it weren't for the hope he gave me, I honestly wouldn't have the will to live through this." Her heartfelt, emotional testimony only fueled the family's fury and suspicion. Her aunt, the matriarch, spoke with a voice like polished ice. "Hope? Olivia, you are a CEO, not a romantic novel heroine. This unhealthy attachment to a janitor is definitive proof that you are too weak and sentimental to retain control of the multi-billion-dollar corporation." They had chillingly succeeded in twisting her profound emotion into a corporate weakness. Later that evening, exhausted and feeling the full, devastating weight of the political battle, Olivia summoned Daniel to her private, silent quarters. The room was large, opulent, cold, and utterly silent, a prison gilded in gold. "Why are you doing all of this, Daniel?" she whispered, searching his eyes for an answer that transcended labor. "What do I have left that is worth saving?" Daniel pulled a chair beside her wheelchair, choosing his words carefully. Honestly, he told her the painful story of his wife, her slow descent into illness, her despair, and the deep, abiding wish he had that someone could have restored her dignity and her hope, just as he was tirelessly trying to do for Olivia. He hadn't been able to save his wife's body from disease, but he knew with certainty he could save Olivia's fighting spirit. Olivia remained silent for a long time, listening to the deeply personal story of his loss. Then she leaned in close, her voice barely audible, thick with emotion. "No one has ever truly chosen me for me, except you." Twist 1. The revelation of pre-existing love. In that moment of deep intimacy, Olivia finally released the secret she had held for over a year. A beautiful secret that predated her accident and Daniel's employment at Sterling Heights. "I first saw you months ago," she confessed, tears gathering in her fierce eyes. "It was raining, Daniel. I was leaving a corporate charity event, dressed in a designer gown, and you were cleaning the public park outside, working an extra, meager shift. I watched you carry Emma. You were shielding her tiny body with your cheap, ripped coat, getting absolutely soaked yourself. She detailed the exact moment that captured her soul. Then a street vendor tried to shortchange Emma on a cheap plastic toy. You didn't yell, Daniel. You didn't curse. You stood straight and tall, your eyes unwavering, and spoke with such quiet, humble dignity that the man actually backed down and corrected the price. You treated that small injustice with the same deep moral weight you would treat a multi-million-dollar corporate takeover. She paused, taking a ragged, difficult breath. I was walking then. I was whole. And I looked at you, the janitor, and I wish that someone would look at me the way you looked at your daughter, with that fierce, humble, and absolute protection. Daniel was momentarily paralyzed by the shocking revelation. He had been chosen, not for convenience, not for her disability, but for the fundamental, quiet core of his character, before her world had violently collapsed. He realized he was not just her contracted protector. He was her secret, impossible, long-held dream. Twist 2, the final ultimatum. The powerful, emotional moment was brutally interrupted. Marcus, having secured enough board votes to proceed, delivered his cold ultimatum personally, his voice a triumphant sneer over the phone. Fire Daniel Cole tomorrow morning. If you don't, you will lose all executive authority and the company will be legally transferred to my control. Decide now, Olivia, the CEO title or the cleaner. Olivia hung up, trembling uncontrollably, the magnitude of the choice crushing her spirit. She tried desperately to negotiate, pacing her chair wildly across the room. I can give him money, Daniel. I can set up a massive trust fund for Emma. I can't let you lose your job. You have Emma to consider, she pleaded, the corporate survival instinct momentarily overriding her heart. Daniel took her hands, his gaze absolutely firm, radiating strength. He gently pulled her head toward his chest. You are worth choosing, Olivia. You are worth more than any company. And Emma and I, we only need you. But I am just disabled, she cried, the raw statement of her deepest insecurity finally exposed. Daniel tightened his protective grip. You are the strongest woman I have ever met, and I believe with every fiber of my being that you will walk again. What if I fall? She whispered, tears streaming down her face. Daniel's response was simple, absolute, and defining, a vow etched in stone. Then I'll catch you. Always. The ultimate test came hours later. Marcus, desperate to make their alliance look dangerous and unstable to the board, subtly sabotaged Olivia's custom wheelchair. He loosened the brake near a main flight of stone stairs. He wanted to stage an accident, a final, conclusive proof that Daniel was a reckless, dangerous influence. The chair suddenly began to roll, picking up lethal speed toward the drop. Daniel, instantly alerted by the minute shift in the air, reacted with the instinct and speed of his old military training. He lunged forward, not toward the chair, but directly toward her body. He grabbed her by the waist and chest, pulling her violently away from the drop, cradling her tightly against his chest as the sophisticated, expensive wheelchair crashed, scattering debris down the stone steps. Witnesses rushed forward, Marcus among them, feigning horror and concern. Olivia clung to Daniel, her shock quickly giving way to blinding, protective rage. She pushed herself upright in his arms, her eyes burning with pure fire. She screamed the final order that severed her tie to her old toxic life. No one is to touch him. He is the only one who protects me. Get my cousin out of this facility immediately. In the silent, wreckage-strewn hallway, Olivia looked up at Daniel. She had chosen him over the company, over her fortune, over the very legacy of her family. Daniel held her, his vow solidified. I will help you walk, Ari, no matter how long or how hard it takes. The threat of Marcus and the family council faded quickly. The circumstances of the staged accident, including undeniable video evidence of the subtle sabotage, were swiftly brought to light by Olivia's legal team. Daniel was not fired. Instead, he was officially appointed as Olivia's personal autonomy and wellness manager, a title that provided him with a professional salary, but far more importantly, formally recognized his unwavering support and unique life-saving skills. Their training was no longer a guilty secret. Daniel leveraged his background in maintenance and construction. He installed custom wooden railings and simple pulley systems throughout a dedicated private room. He transformed the space into a personalized gym that felt more like a workshop of hope than a sterile clinic. Together, they meticulously charted her progress, hanging small, colorful markers on the wall for every millimeter of improved movement or muscle twitch. Yet progress was not linear. It was brutal. One afternoon, Olivia attempted a simple transfer from her chair to a mat and failed, collapsing in a heap of frustrated tears. She pounded the mat with her fist, her breath coming in ragged sobs. "This is useless, Daniel. It's been weeks of pain and nothing changes. I'm trapped." Daniel didn't offer empty platitudes or corporate cheerleading. He simply knelt beside her, matching her eye level. "You stood up today, Ari," he reminded her calmly. "You didn't fall onto the floor. You intentionally failed onto a mat. That's a huge difference. We are not focusing on what we can't do. We focus on controlling the fall. The effort itself is the victory." He helped her up, his patience absolute. Olivia found surprisingly that she no longer felt shame when she fell. Daniel was always there to catch her, not with hesitation or pity, but with immediate, practical strength and an encouraging word. Emma naturally assumed the role of their tiny, enthusiastic coach. She was meticulous, tracking the colorful markers Daniel hung. "Go, Olivia! You can do it! Fight it!" she would chant, sitting near the resistance bands. She didn't just cheer, she kept the official records. "You moved the blue line 2 inches today, Mrs. Olivia. That's more than yesterday's record." The sound of that innocent, unwavering belief often brought Olivia to the verge of tears. The little girl's pure love was a deeper form of medicine than any therapy. One evening, tired but profoundly content, Olivia rested her head against Daniel's shoulder. "Do you know my biggest fear, Daniel?" she asked softly into the quiet room. "It's not the paralysis itself. It's being abandoned, being told I'm simply too much trouble to care for, that I am too fundamentally broken." Daniel simply tightened his arm around her. The action was a more powerful, eternal promise than words. "I'm not going anywhere, Olivia. You don't get rid of me that easily. You're my family now. The three of us. Forever." Weeks later, during a session where Daniel was guiding her through minute, painful leg lifts, Olivia suddenly cried out. Her eyes widened in pure astonishment. "Daniel, I feel tingling, heat, a hot pins and needles feeling in my toes." It was the first verifiable neurological response since the crash. Daniel let out a whoop of unrestrained joy that startled Emma. He hugged Olivia fiercely. They immediately called the facility doctor, who, though initially skeptical, confirmed the nerve response was real. Small but undeniable. The hope it ignited was immense, blazing bright in the sterile facility. The quiet, private story of the janitor who brought the paralyzed CEO back to life began to trickle into the public eye. It was fueled by respectful whispers from the staff who had witnessed Daniel's absolute devotion. Employees began looking at Olivia differently, not with pity for her disability, but with deep, profound respect for her fight and the unbreakable bond she shared with Daniel and Emma. Her former executive assistant, seeing her renewed vigor and clear purpose, even returned to her team, bringing loyalty and efficiency. In a quiet moment, Olivia referenced Daniel's earlier words. "Remember that day you said you wished someone would protect you like I protected Emma?" Daniel smiled, running his thumb over her knuckles. "I'm here now, Ari, and I'll always be here to protect you." Driven by pure adrenaline and willpower, Olivia stood for a full 5 seconds without his support. Her hips were held only by her own burgeoning core strength. As she finally fell back into his embrace, she buried her face in his neck, her voice thick with gratitude. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she whispered into his work shirt. 6 more months passed. Through relentless, disciplined effort and Daniel's non-stop, loving presence, Olivia's progress became nothing short of miraculous. The daily training had progressed from simple standing to minute, painful steps within the parallel bars. Daniel stood directly behind her, his strong hands supporting her hips, gently guiding her delicate balance. "Focus on the horizon, Ari. Just one step. I believe in you. I know you can do it. She pushed. She fought. She strained. And then she took 3 halting, unsteady steps, then 5, then 6. The dedicated training room erupted in pure, unadulterated joy and cheers. Olivia turned her head and looked into the large mirror. Daniel was openly weeping, the profound, quiet tears of a man who had seen his beloved conquer the impossible. I am more proud of you than anyone else on this earth, Daniel choked out, his voice thick with powerful emotion. Emma rushed forward, wrapping her small arms around Olivia's legs. You did it! You're a superhero, Olivia! You walked! With shaking but newly steady arms, Olivia knelt down and lifted Emma, pulling her into a fierce, joyous hug. She found profoundly that she could hold her weight, a simple, life-defining victory. The next day, fully stable and standing with the aid of a stylish carbon fiber cane, Olivia walked into the Sterling Industries main boardroom. The emergency meeting called by Marcus, intended to finalize his hostile takeover, was already in session. Marcus looked smug, assuming her presence was a desperate final plea. He began, his voice condescending. Olivia, darling, this sudden appearance is futile. The board has already... He stopped dead in his tracks when Olivia placed her cane deliberately on the heavy mahogany table and, with incredible focus and grace, walked the remaining 10 feet to her CEO chair without any aid whatsoever. The board, Olivia finished, her voice steel-cold and commanding, has already determined that control belongs to the most capable leader. You believed my disability was weakness, Marcus? It wasn't. It was a crucible that forged me. She looked directly at her utterly defeated cousin. You tried to sabotage my life and my recovery. You failed. The video evidence of your attempted murder is now in the hands of the authorities. Consider yourself terminated, effective immediately. And cousin, she added, picking up her cane and pointing it directly at him, don't let the security door hit you on your way out. The board, stunned but overwhelmingly relieved, erupted in thunderous applause, acknowledging the powerful return of their true leader. Daniel, who had been patiently waiting outside, the janitor in a suit who was now her wellness manager, caught her eye. He saw the woman, not the CEO. He saw the heart that had fought through the pain. He knew the victory was complete. They drove away from the towering skyscraper, the symbol of her corporate power, together. Daniel drove slowly, both of them savoring the deep, meaningful silence. Olivia rested her head against the cool window glass. I chose you, Daniel, she whispered. I chose us. Always. Daniel smiled, reaching over to squeeze her hand gently. He knew the real victory wasn't the company. It was her ability to stand and walk forward, side by side with him. Later that week, Olivia invited Daniel and Emma to her massive, palatial, empty penthouse. As she watched Daniel and Emma laugh over a simple dinner in her silent kitchen, Olivia realized the house was no longer quiet. It was now filled with light, laughter, and the chaotic, comforting sound of a family. She walked over to Daniel, her eyes bright with a future she had only dared to dream of. If I can walk completely, can I walk next to you? Not as the CEO, but as your equal? Daniel didn't hesitate. His answer was delivered with the absolute certainty of love. You've always been walking next to me, Ari, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. Finally, Olivia reached out, grasping both Daniel's hand and Emma's small one. If you won't leave me, I won't leave you too. Ever. Daniel encircled his 2 women in a tight, protective embrace, the scent of expensive perfume mixing sweetly with honest sweat and cinnamon. That's right, my love, he whispered, his voice full of the quiet triumph of a man who had won the greatest prize in the world. And Daddy is never leaving you both. Their story, the single dad janitor and the paralyzed billionaire, became a quiet, profound legend. They stood together in the late afternoon sun, a family created not from perfect health or immense wealth, but forged in the fire of shared vulnerability and the transformative power of genuine, long-held love. Their success proved that the greatest form of wealth is the person who sees your soul, not your title. If you believe stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to NL Touching Stories.